Thank you for joining our targeting series. Today's presentation is targeting reading comprehension, especially as it relates to preparing for the AccuPlacer. Hi, I'm your host, Virginia Castleman, and welcome to the Veterans Upward Bound Targeting series that has specifically been created to help you in all areas of writing, research, critical thinking, formatting, technical challenges, and creating college-level essays. I teach writing at TMCC and work primarily with Veterans Upward Bound. I have ghostwritten 6 novels. I write children's books, including Sarah Lost and Found that was picked up by Simon & Schuster. And I have a master's degree in English, psychology, education, and children's literature, which falls under interdisciplinary studies. Well, now that you know a little bit about me, let's get started. There are 6 skills to become a more effective reader, and in this presentation we will show how to apply those skills. The first is to know what a main idea is and how to recognize it. The second is to know what supporting details are and how to identify them. Third, recognize implied main ideas and how they support the central point being made. Fourth, understand relationships that involve addition and time. Fifth, understand relationships that involve illustration, comparison, contrast, and cause and effect. And finally, sixth, understand purpose and tone. Let's start with the main idea. The main idea is the writer's primary point about a topic. If you picture an umbrella, the main idea is the center point from which all the other ideas fall under to support it. So if we look at this one, we have the main idea, and then the one spoke has supporting idea, the second spoke has the second supporting idea, the third spoke has the third supporting idea, and so forth. So let's look at the example below, and remember, this is not about agreeing or disagreeing with the topic or view, but identifying the key parts of the paragraph. And I say that because it's so easy when someone makes a statement for us to emotionally react to the statement. But in this exercise, again, we're looking at it to identify key parts of the paragraph. So in this example, can you identify the topic and identify the topic sentence? Now, if you drop down to the bottom there, you'll see the word topic can be used in 2 different ways. It can be used to mean the subject of the reading, and it can also be used as part of the phrase topic sentence. And I color-coded these so you can see the gold is the subject and the red is the topic sentence. So the subject of the paragraph is TV violence affects people in negative ways. The topic sentence is frequent TV watchers are more fearful and suspicious of others. Let's now look at supporting details. Think of supporting details as examples, steps, reasons, or other types of factual evidence that help explain a main idea. In this example, you'll note the main idea and the supporting details. Supporting details are sometimes referred to as premises, as in premise 1, premise 2, etc. The main idea, our government should phase out the penny. Supporting detail 1, pennies take up more space than they are worth. Supporting detail 2, pennies are a nuisance to the business community. Supporting detail 3, pennies cost the nation as a whole. In this example, the supporting details give reasons to support the main idea of phasing out the penny. Another key way to comprehend or understand what you are reading is to look for transitions. And transitions include additional words, contrast words, exceptional words, time words, and sequential words. Additional words are words the writer has added to a paragraph to further support their claim. And as a reminder, a claim is the statement that the writer makes in the thesis statement that appears in the introductory paragraph, which claims whether they are for or against the topic being addressed. Additional words are also called transitions or transitional words, phrases, or sentences. These might include furthermore, additionally, next, in addition, also, and so on. Contrast words show differences between 2 or more items being compared. These include, on the other hand, despite, in contrast, contrary to, and so forth. Exceptional words point out unusual or unique features. These include however, nevertheless, with the exception of, in the case of, and so on. Time words provide step-by-step organization and include later, during a time period such as decade, year, month, week, or century. And sequential words provide chronological organization and include next, first, second, after, before, and so forth. Another way to help understand what you're reading is through illustration, comparison, contrast, and cause and effect. Illustration can mean two things: graphics, which are images, and examples. When using examples, phrases such as for example, for instance, as illustrated, as shown, and so forth might appear. We use these phrases to show the relationship between the two sentences. For example, look at these two sentences and see if one of them is easier to understand because it shows a relationship between the two sentences. Young kids can do household chores. They can run a duster along baseboards or fold clothes. The second example, young kids can do household chores. For instance, they can run a duster along baseboards or fold clothes. You can see the second sentence shows a relationship between the two sentences and therefore makes it much more clear to understand. Another way to understand what you're reading is to look for compare and contrast. Comparisons show similarities, contrasts show differences. The following examples show how comparison and contrast can be used together as a way of analyzing or explaining relationships between or among items, ideas, or people. Number one is the main idea. Advertising is part of the strategy manufacturers use to sell their products. Number two, similarity. Manufacturers use advertising as a way to advertise established products as well as new products. Contrasts. 3. New products are generally advertised differently from established products. 4. Show how. New products are often introduced with informational advertising telling what the products are, why they are needed, and where they are available. And finally, 5. Contrasts. Established products, on the other hand, can rely on reminder advertisements, which provide less detailed information about the product. Let's look now at the effectiveness of cause and effect. People sometimes confuse process with cause and effect. Process answers the question how, as in how something is made, done, or executed. Cause and effect answers the questions why and what, as in why an event happened and or what are the results of an event. Consider how this passage reflects the relationship between cause and effect. In the 1970s, about 60 small and medium-sized factories in the U.S. adopted a 4-day work week. According to the plan, workers work 40 hours, but instead of the usual 5-day week, they now work only 4 days. Workers are enthusiastic about the 3-day weekly vacation. According to management, productivity has increased about 18% since the inception of the new plan. Absenteeism has dropped by 69%, and lateness is almost non-existent. Now, this is your exercise. Consider what are the effects being discussed. Is it shorter work week? Is it factories deciding to try the 4-day work week? Is it the 70s were a time of change? Or is it the increased productivity and decreases in absenteeism and tardiness? If you answered increased productivity and decreased in absenteeism and tardiness, you were correct. Let's take a closer look. In the 1970s, about 60 small and medium-sized factories in the U.S. adopted a 4-day work week. This is a topic sentence, but doesn't discuss cause or effect. According to the plan, workers work 40 hours, but instead of the usual 5-day week, they now work only 4 days. This explains who is involved, but doesn't show a cause and effect relationship. Workers are enthusiastic about the 3-day weekly vacation. While this might be true, it is not discussed in the passage. And finally, this sentence explains the result of the 4-day weekend. According to management, productivity has increased about 18% since the inception of the new plan. Absenteeism has dropped by 69%, and lateness is almost non-existent. Another thing that will help you understand what someone has written is to look at their purpose and tone. People often confuse the two. Purpose has to do with why the writer wrote the piece. Was it to entertain, inform, persuade, argue? A writer's tone reveals the writer's attitude about the topic and can reflect anger, sympathy, hopefulness or hopelessness, sadness, respect, dislike, and so on. In other words, a reflection of a feeling or a judgment is shared. Other words that describe tone include amused, angry, ashamed, praising, excited, mocking, and so forth. Understanding tone, therefore, is important in understanding and interpreting not just what the author has written, but why they felt a need to write it. Here are some examples. Quote, "Animal abuse in any situation is abominable." End quote. The tone, anger, bitter. The purpose, to make someone more aware and perhaps to even enrage. Second example, quote, "Flipping burgers made from innocent butchered cows will clearly prepare him for a top job on Wall Street." End quote. Tone, sarcasm. Purpose, to drive in a point about the uselessness of killing animals. And third, quote, "The part of the job I love is meeting new people, earning extra money, and getting free meals." End quote. The tone is light, friendly, enthusiastic, and the purpose is to show a positive side of working in a restaurant business. Here are some walkaway points to consider. Becoming an effective reader involves recognizing main ideas, supporting details, implied main ideas, addition and time, illustration, comparison, contrast, cause and effect, purpose, and tone. Transitions are additional words, contrast words, exceptional words, time words, and sequential words. Supporting details are sometimes referred to as premises, as in premise 1, premise 2, and so forth. Effective reading also involves looking for compare and contrasting elements, cause and effect, and tone. A writer's tone reveals the writer's attitude about the topic. In the end, as a reader, you become the judge of whether the writer accomplished their purpose, whether the methods and words they used were effective, whether their thoughts were clearly laid out and well supported, and whether the writing evoked emotion from you. Did it move you in some way, make you sad, happy, angry, determined maybe? Then you can apply some of the effective methods in your own writing, which will also be analyzed by your readers or listeners. Thank you again for joining me today for our targeting series, and look for more targeting presentations and glean valuable tips on all different topics relating to college writing and technology. Feel free to email me with any questions you may have about grammar, punctuation, formatting, basic computer issues, and more. If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody who does. See you soon.